Welcome to Inside PTI, weekly videos designed to get you the trial results you want, agronomy explanations you need, and hopefully some insights that will set you up for success this growing season. Today we're going to talk about leaf orientation in corn. One of the neat studies that we've done at the PTI farm the last few years has been monitoring how corn comes up out of the ground and orients its leaves in the row. And that may sound really silly, and you're probably saying to yourself, why in the world are you wanting to study something like that? Well, if you look at these two pictures on the screen, as you think about you walking through your cornfield, scouting your corn, how do you want the leaves to orient in the row? And this is something that we've been working on. And sometimes I struggle. I'm walking out there scouting the corn, and I see the corn that's pictured on the right of the slide here. You've got a corn plant that's kind of turned around the wrong direction. And when you look at those leaves, look at it to its neighbors. And so now all of a sudden you think about that biomass, that leaf that's supposed to be harvesting sunlight. It's not in the right position to harvest all of that sunlight. It's overtopping, overlayering its neighbor's leaves, and we don't have efficient sunlight harvesting. Now, go to the left side of the screen. That's what corn plants, in my opinion, should look like. This is what we really like to see in the field. Great sunlight interception. We're canopying faster because of the way the leaves are oriented. We're keeping it cooler in the canopy because we're shading quicker. Okay, less sunlight's getting to the ground, and this actually helps with burning moisture and actually with weed control as well. So I think we'd all agree that the leaf orientation on the left is probably what we would like to see on every single corn plant out there in the field. The problem is we don't get that. And I struggle when I walk through the field and I see that corn plant that's oriented the wrong direction, and I just kind of wonder why it's that way. And then I also wonder, can we fix it? Okay? So one of the things that we've been doing is we just said, is it really a problem? Okay? So at Precision Planting, if we're going to come up with a solution, well, first we have to know that there's an actual problem. So this is 2-year data, 2018 and 2019 data from the PTI farm. And what we found is we've gone into all of our plots at the farm, different hybrids, different row width, and what we found is on average, when those corn plants get the wrong leaf orientation, they get turned the wrong way, we're losing 9% of ear weight loss. Okay? We're losing 9% of weight from those ears of corn, from those plants that are oriented the wrong way. Okay? Now, it depends on yield potential of what we've seen the past 2 years, and let's just talk about 200 bushel corn yield potential. So that 9% ear weight loss is actually coming up to an 18 bushel loss from that one plant that was turned the wrong direction, and that scares me to death thinking about that. But the one thing you have to take into account is the occurrence factor. How often is it happening in the field? It's not every plant. We're not saying that leaf orientation is causing an 18 bushel loss in the field. It's just every plant it does it on is averaging 18 bushel to the acre. So what we're finding is, and it varies on the hybrids and the row width, but generally we're 20 to 30% occurrence factor in the field. 20 to 30% of our plants actually get turned the wrong direction. Okay, and so now let's take a look at some of the actual yield loss that's happening after the occurrence factor. So generally we're seeing 3 to 7 bushel losses based on yield potential and the occurrence factor in the field. And so a 3 bushel loss last year at the corn price we used this year for all of our calculations, $3.67, we're at $11 to the acre loss. As it would get worse and go up to 7 bushel to the acre, some of the most we've ever seen, that actually adds up quite a bit, and we're looking at over a $25 loss in those high occurrences where leaf orientation is wrong. So this is something that we're monitoring. We don't have a solution for this today, but right now we're just monitoring yield, monitoring the hybrids, monitoring the row width, and seeing if this is something that we need to attack and fix in the future. One of the things that we're doing is looking at actual seed placement in the furrow. One of the things that we do, and it's been neat demonstrating this at the PTI farm, we plant kernels of corn in different orientations. We plant them tip down, tip up, tip to the right, tip to the left, and then we come in and we look at the leaf orientation as a result of positioning that seed in the furrow. And there's a big difference in tip up, tip down. It doesn't really have too much of an effect of leaf orientation. It's more of how fast will that corn come up out of the ground. And I want to show you a quick example of this. This is one of the things that we found as we were doing these leaf orientation studies. Here you've got a kernel of corn, and you can see the embryo, and we'll go ahead and kind of circle the embryo on each of these corn kernels here. This is the embryo that will imbibe water. Once we put it in seed to soil contact, that's where the germ actually happens. And it is quite interesting looking at a corn kernel planted tip down or tip up. Here's what happens. And so here's kind of the body parts of what I usually call a corn kernel. You've got the coleoptile, the seminal root, and the radicle. And we put an arrow in each one of these so you know which one it is. But I want you to just concentrate on the corn kernel to the far left. That corn kernel was planted tip down, and look at where the radicle takes off and goes downward. Is that the right direction? Yes, it is. How about the coleoptile? It goes straight up. Is that the right direction? Yep, we want it out of the soil surface. That's correct. And so everything seems to be going correctly when we plant that kernel tip down. However, when we flip it upside down and we plant the tip up, look what happens. The radicle starts to grow upward, and the corn kernel at some point in time has to say, wait a minute, I'm growing the wrong direction, and it does a U-turn. It actually turns around and starts growing down. How about the coleoptile? It does the same thing. It starts growing down and says, wait a minute, I got to get up out of the soil surface. I got to do a U-turn and come up. And so this happens almost 100% of the time in some of the germ tests that we've done. Placing corn kernels tip down will get corn to come up out of the ground faster, but it doesn't seem to relate to anything with leaf orientation. I think the embryo placement going left or right may have something to do with it, and we're still studying that. But right now it's been fascinating to see some of the differences out here in the field in regard to how a kernel was placed in the furrow and ultimately the leaf orientation. So today's Inside PTI agronomy tip of the day is leaf orientation is something that we have been monitoring at the PTI farm, and in some cases really causing enough yield loss to really get our attention. Matter of fact, we're seeing near 20 bushel to the acre on the plants that display the incorrect leaf orientation. So as you're scouting your cornfields this growing season, watch for plants that have incorrect leaf orientation. Dig them up. See how the seed was oriented in the furrow, and monitor overall ear size and yield potential at harvest. It's PTI Farm. We'll be doing more testing on this in the future and plan to demonstrate leaf orientation at our future field days. So for more information or questions, feel free to reach out to any Precision Planting Premier dealer, or you can email us at InsidePTI@precisionplanting.com. We'll see you on the next episode of Inside PTI. In the meantime, thanks for watching.